Welcome home. We are WNST, AM 1570, Dallas, Baltimore. We are Baltimore Positive. We are positively here with a beautiful view of what used to be Sears, White Marsh Mall. We're here at the Avenue in White Marsh. We're at the Red Brick Station having a delicious stout. I had a delicious crab cake. Back to the Future scratch-offs from the Maryland Lottery being gifted out around the bar. My thanks to Bill Blocker and his daughter Katie for giving us the Endo's experience as well as the Red Brick Station experience, as well as the delicious crab cake. I lost an earlier guest. I'm going to get Joe Giordano on later on. I also think Chris Corman from the Baltimore Banner is going to try to join us later on in the week as well. Nick Stewart is here. He is a returning champion to the program. We got together a couple years ago over at State Fair. I think I saw you at the Maryland party last year. Did I see you at Mako? Where did I see you? I saw
Mako.
I saw you at the beach. And on my timeline, you're doing a good job somehow. I am a Baltimore County resident and voter. It said, Stewart for Baltimore County Executive. And I'm like, I'm going to give Nick a call. We're going to talk wonky zoning, land growth, right in your wheelhouse, right? That's who you are.
Yeah.
How you been, man? Good to see you.
It's great to see you too. Yeah, thank you.
You're not an elected. What would I say you are? What's your real job?
So I'm a business attorney. I am a community advocate. I lead a good governance advocacy group. It's called We the People, Baltimore County. But I also serve on the board of Southwest Visions Foundation, which is a community development corporation for the Southwest portion of our county. So I've been at it for a long time, right? Used to be a board member for the school board for Baltimore County, and then served on the workforce development board for 8 years.
So has this always been in your mind's eye to run for public office? I mean, I've asked Johnny O and other young progressive people like you, Pat over in your side of town. I like the infusion of, people a little younger than me, but also who are competent about the issues, whether you agree with it or not. You're bringing a level of competency from having lived and served in the space. You don't have to look any further than the White House to know what lack of competency and lack of really servicing people. You've been in a position to put this together and run for office, but I did not sense that you wanted to be a public official.
No, and that was true. So serving on the school board and being a public official in that way, not elected, and never been a full-time elected official, it gave you a sense of what this is all about and how challenging it really is to make progress. And so, there are ways in which I enjoy what I do. I enjoy seeing my family. I enjoy being able to, work with the clients that I do from a business law perspective. I work with a variety of, great clients, many entrepreneurs and small companies and startups.
What would that mean, business law? Give everybody what's a typical day in the life of Nick Stewart for business, where you were just having a hell of a conversation with Bill Blocker here before we came on the air about housing and the mall's going to become housing and what kind of housing, and people are fighting it.
Yeah,
people are fighting. I had Mark Rembaum on. I'll see him at the Maryland party next week, fighting what's going on in Timonium with light rail, which I got on that light rail stop to go to BWI last week to see Pearl Jam.
Okay.
And I'm there, and there's 3 people getting on the light rail at 7:15 in the morning. And it was kind of, I'm like...
Our number one biggest missed opportunity in Baltimore County sits right there. It is one.
But you're like the West Side guy, and I bring you over here to the East Side, but you're trying to be the Baltimore County guy.
That's right. Well, look, the East Side has some of the greatest potential, investment potential, and opportunity that exists in Baltimore County writ large. If we think about, Lafarge Quarry, you think about what's happening at Greenlee, you think about, Turner Station, Fort Howard.
Waterfront, sure.
Correct. And, in Dundalk and Essex, there have been design plans that have already been created. The Essex Reimagined Plan is coming online. But these are amazing, incredible opportunities. Just think of the proximity, for example, of Dundalk to Johns Hopkins, Bayview. It's on the same road, right? So what University of Maryland Medical System in Glen Burnie did was transform Glen Burnie into workforce housing to support the hospital operations and systems. We should be thinking these thoughts around Dundalk and around trying to truly modernize and create opportunities for investment in this area without changing its historic culture and tradition. We're not saying that, but can we build beautiful things that lead to revitalization? Yes, of course we can. We just have to do the hard work to get there.
Well, I want to get you to Timonium in a minute. Nick's running for Baltimore County Executive. Give everybody the voting. People don't even know when they vote, how they vote, how Kathy wound up at Baltimore County.
Yes,
I ran into John Von Tran last week as well. I'm going to try to have Kathy on the show as well.
Yeah.
Really, give me a baseline, because I had Todd Schuler on. I've invited Todd Crandall on. I saw Julian Jones and Izzy Patoka a couple weeks ago, but I haven't had like a conversation about how she became Baltimore County Executive when Johnny left, and just this sort of interestingly weird period. My former partner Don Moeller was, part of that in a small way after the tragedy to Kevin. But this was, people knew Johnny was running. People knew Johnny was probably going to win.
Right.
I don't think his competitor thought that, but I thought that. Johnny wins. The county's in a little bit of an interesting place right now.
Right, so there's 2 years that Kathy, our county executive, Klausmeyer, has to serve to finish out, quote-unquote, Johnny Olszewski's term, at which point she has said that she's not going to run for re-election. It'll be an open seat. And so there's an opportunity here. You kind of get back to your first question, like what prompts you to be in this moment? We're looking at a county that is on the cusp of a crossroads, that we really are facing significant issues. For me, it was kind of a put up or shut up. I've done all this work. I have this outsider perspective. I'm not wed to the past because I've never been a full-time politician. So there's a real opportunity for us to take a fresh look and a fresh solution set being applied to government and government delivery of services and products, right? Like new housing units, seeing it in that way, that we can arrive there faster than 6 years or build a new high school faster than 12 to 15 years, which is our timeline right now.
Well, both my elementary and high school have been rebuilt.
Yep.
I guess it probably started with Jim Smith and Kevin Kamenitz.
Yeah.
Johnny was the one that opened Colgate Elementary. I'm Dundalk High School.
Yeah.
Proud Hall of Famer. But
there's scarcity, right? We think, like, I served on school board when Delaney and Lansdowne were sort of at odds with one another. I'm a Delaney grad, but I was representing the Southwest area where Lansdowne, of course, is. And it felt like it was a zero-sum game.
But the truth is they both need to be done, right?
That's exactly
right.
And for us to not be able to operate in that way showcases just how scarce we feel and the resources actually are for us to deliver
and that
these projects.
becomes a demographic issue, it becomes a race issue, it becomes a money issue, it becomes a class issue.
But it's also
all of that, right?
It's a systems issue as well. It's a process issue. And so we've created so much procedure, endless procedure, that we've lost the progress. We've lost the result over the red tape. That is where we are, right? And there's a real reason why, for example, in Lutherville Station, that project has been going on or been proposed for 6 years. That's not unprecedented, but that is not something that's sustainable.
It shows how hard it is to do, and at some point a developer either quits or the neighborhood quits, but either way, it's not progress.
It's not progress. And most people feel like that probably is not the right way to do it, and it's not. I think we know that ultimately. Look, it is. We're not talking about developing greenfield. We're not talking about turning these beautiful spaces and just making them industrial in nature. We're talking about taking a place that is unproductive, that is fallow. It's the Caldor I shopped at as a kid, right? It's not doing anything except it's a spirit Halloween, every Halloween. So what do we want to do with it? We want to create a mixed-use community that brings vibrancy and authenticity and heart back to that area.
An avenue for there.
There you go.
Right? As we sit here in the avenue in White Marsh that I said would never work, and it's worked.
But, human-scaled architecture, greenery that is incorporated as we look outside, and sort of this opportunity, this understanding that we can walk, live, play, learn all in the same place. That's not something that we have real good access to in our county, but we should, because we have so many opportunities. If you think about Lutherville Station, you think about what's happening at White Marsh, but you think about East Point Mall, you think about downtown Towson and the fact that it's been hollowing out for some years, and there's opportunities to reorient the way we grow and develop in that area. Liberty Road, you talk about Eastern Boulevard, you talk about Security Square Mall. All these are opportunities for us to not just revitalize for the sake of revitalization or grow for the sake of growth, but to also address our housing crisis that exists, to address our economic slowdown that has existed, a depression of our tax base, at the same time that we're creating and renewing the sense of culture and tradition that we have had in Baltimore County, the reasons why our parents brought us here in the first place.
It's amazing. Nick is here. He's running for Baltimore County Executive. Nick Stewart. We're going to talk more about the actual running, but I want to go back to, as I'm staring at White Marsh Mall, I remember 1981, this being built. I was 12 years old. My parents came out here for the first time, and it was like this wonderment. It was like Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I'm a mall rat from East Point, so I grew up Bank Street, right by St. Peter's Church, where I was a mall rat. 23 bus line. My parents never drove. So the East Point Mall, Security Square Mall, we've seen what Golden Ring Mall is now, basically a Home Depot, right? And then White Marsh Mall here, and then shopping plazas. And I'm going to be out broadcasting for the Maryland Party next week with Howard Perlow and all of the people who own, rent, and sell and do all the things that you know so much about with zoning and property.
Right.
These mall areas, as they've dried up, they've become controversial in so many ways.
Yep.
And they are, and even the Towson Mall for crime and for all the other things we hear. Owings Mills now, I'm thinking of these areas. Yep. What becomes of them? Man, they are just gigantic big things in a county like Baltimore County because we've all been here a million times, and we're like, that's the mall, that's the mall. It doesn't always have to be the mall. In the same way, when I have John Hoey on from the Y, Memorial Stadium's a Y now, and it's okay. You know, we have a stadium that's a bigger, better stadium that we're doing something else with.
I think most people would say that the reason we have malls, or the way in which we've grown in the past, has all been dedicated to this really anachronistic, this old style of development, which was saying that let's put all the retail here, we'll put all the residential here, we'll put all the commercial and industrial over here. And so there's a certain sense that we're growing apart from one another. Over the last 2, 3, 4 decades, there has been a push, though not as much where we need it to be, around mixed-use development, around bringing those zones together and saying we can create something that's oriented and where we can leave our cars at home on the weekend because we have everything that we need to be able to live a vibrant and complete and sustainable life here with one another. We live in community. That's what we're looking for. There will always be a place for single-family homes with yards and so forth and a fair amount of acreage. But if we're going to get serious about what to do with the major town center opportunities and the economic assets that exist in our county, then we have got to lean into the redevelopment of these areas as vibrant, bustling town centers.
With your work prior to trying to run for public office, finding this pushback against growth, I mean, it's just literally, it's the oldest, 100%. Reddest, bluest, Trumpist, Bidenist thing, which is we don't want anything to change. We want to go back to Eisenhower, or, hey, look, let's rethink this and let's do something new. And where we're standing here feels like the Avenue's been here. This was, as Bill Blocker said, this was a weird kind of project. It was controversial. It was, could it work? Would people shop outside? They didn't know what it was. Creating a fake town center and like a movie set in Blazing Saddles or something like that. We have the mall. The mall will be. This is an old man in me 30 years ago when I was in my 30s, 20s, saying no change. We're going to go to the mall forever. The mall will be there. I'm old enough now to know that change is inevitable. It will either roll you over, or you will change.
Yes.
Change will come for you. And what's the hardest part? Just take one mall, one thing, whether it's White Marsh. What's the hardest thing from your organic organization of trying to fight for progress versus people saying,
good question,
we don't care about business, we don't know about business, we think the boogeyman's out to get us and the politician's out to get us.
Yeah.
I have found that to be counterproductive ideology.
Yeah, there are just a handful of things that we come back to on a regular basis. The first one is fear of change. And that is natural, right? People are worried about what it would look like for their community to accept or integrate this additional investment opportunity where they live, work, play, learn, and so forth. The reason for that is, in large part, we haven't proven out as a government, as a private sector, working together that we build beautiful things. Oftentimes, we've built to the lowest common denominator, the things that are maybe easiest to do, quickest to do, because the system is so hard that even the quickest thing to do is not that quick to do.
Well, look at Harbor Place right now, just as an example, right? There's the center of the city. We're still talking. We're not digging, right?
Well, so it takes forever for these things to progress. And so there's a fear of change that's been founded, at least in part, on a reasonable belief that we don't do good projects or nice things. And at the same time, you have folks who are looking at this environment and saying, if we allow for this change, it will fundamentally alter who we are. It won't respect local tradition and culture. It will feel overwhelming. It'll feel like we live in Reston, Virginia, even though that's a nice project, but there's height to the projects and so forth. Can we make sure that neighbors are the developers, that they're brought into the conversation to ensure that their community is reflected in the ultimate end result?
Well, we all want to feel like we're a stakeholder, right?
That's right.
In what we're doing, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so there are smart ways of doing this that won't be so emotionally charged, won't be so parochial in nature, or don't just depend upon one council person saying yes or no in that moment as they're receiving, a ton of hate from the community for potentially allowing X or Y.
Well, if you're a politician, you're going to get hate no matter what at this point, right? I mean, you're going to go for or against whatever the grain is. And, I mean, you're ready to swim in that in Baltimore County. But
oh, right. There are going to be plenty of people who don't like what we stand for. That has to be okay, because the reality is we are at this crossroads where for the first time in 100 years, we, per the census data, are losing population. this is happening. So change, the other question of this, or the other reason why this happens, is people do believe that the status quo is an option. It really isn't. What happens is either progress or
stagnation,
sure. And falling back. And so here, our economic growth in the county has reduced to about 0.6%. We have a housing crisis. The average age to buy your first home is around 40 years old. A new townhome in Baltimore County is selling between $450,000 to $500,000. This is a town home in our county. We are reaching a point where if we don't take action, it's going to be really hard to try to come back from that. And so, Johnny Olszewski has done a lot of good work trying to improve the systems of government to make the bigger things possible, doing the small things to make the big things possible. That's where we are right now. We have a moment where we can lean into this and say, the reason why, in my opinion, that Democrats lost in 2024 is we didn't deliver on the things we said we were going to deliver on for working families to make life just a little bit easier and to make it a little less hard to survive as a working family in our locality, our county, our country.
Why here, why now with this county executive run for you? And you got to ramp up here and people get to know you a little bit. You haven't run for public office. You got a wife, you got 4 kids. I mean,
sure.
You got a thing. I mean, you're going on here.
Yeah.
You're going to run hard the next 18 months, right?
That's right. Yeah. So it's not a normal next step. I admit that. But I think that's sort of the point of this is that we have done the work. We have built the platform. I've done years and years of both, a lot of things around workforce, around education, around housing, smart growth, revitalization, community redevelopment. All those issues are the issues that will define us for this next generation. They are coming to a head. And so for me, it was a put up or shut up moment. If we believe in these things, and can I show my kids that we will take risks based off of the values that we have? And I'm willing to do that. Look, I'm willing to see them less. I'm willing, certainly to make less money. The whole thing that comes with it, right? Of being a true public servant and saying we're going to do this for 8 years. That's it. We'll be done. But we'll make the change that we want to make in Baltimore County to make sure it's a different place that's hospitable and accommodating to young families. That allows for the same story that I had here, that my parents had here, for the next generation as well. We don't have that right now. We have to try to address that.
You pro Johnny O, right?
Yeah.
What was he doing well? Where can you pick that up? What has Kathy inherited in Baltimore County? And I haven't talked to her, but what is your notion of the state of the county? Because you've been hard at work at all of this, and
sure.
Your team's been sitting in the office to some degree, right? So I would think you agree with some things, but also, hey, this is mine. I'm going to do it a little differently than Kevin did it, or Johnny did it, or Kathy did it, or Don did it.
Sure. So all good. These are good questions. What Johnny did so well, and just to get back to it, I think from my perspective was this process improvement where he said, hey, look, government needs to be more connected. I mean, look at the town halls, right? Look at the connectivity from the Office of Community Engagement. A lot of that is because of what he was able to achieve and what he was able to drive forward. And those weren't easy things to do. He installed, for example, the first electronic HR system that the county has had. We were in, 2020s, and he's working on this, even still. And so doing the blocking and tackling will make the bigger things possible. But, make no mistake, he also did things, particularly around education, that were so essential, including continuing the school construction, projects that were under Kevin Kamenetz, which was a significant outlay, required some sacrifice. But we were, in a large respect, able to really knock down the school construction crisis that we had in that moment. So
I talked a lot about that, 3-4 years ago, for sure.
Right, and so we talk a little less about it. Now you hear it more because of the adequate public facilities ordinance that was passed last year. That was a housing ban that was put, in place in Baltimore County, which is absolutely wild, and we can talk about that in a second. Again, part of the reason that I'm here. But, you look at our library system. It's still an absolute gem, and there's been great investment that has occurred within the library system. I mean, you look at our county, and you see that it is ready to address these issues. And finally, on housing, right, that he was able, particularly towards the end of his 6 years, really, establish the first housing department that we had in the county and prioritize the issue in such a way that this county is having the conversation now in a way it never has before. Housing's become a number one issue together with crime and taxes for the first time ever. And so if change is about timing, which I truly believe that it is, then we have a tremendous opportunity right now to lean into that change and say we're going to make the investment.
Well, the bridge thing, being a Dundalk guy,
Right.
and where we are with that, and Trump running the country, and where funding would be, and Social Security, really being a Baltimore County West Side issue, if not a local regional issue all around.
And CMS.
I look at Baltimore, and I didn't realize the slippage of population because we hear so much about that in the city. Now the murder rate's down. Obviously, the population's down. But this Towson crime thing that follows it around, I'm WNST Towson, Baltimore. I live in Towson. I don't feel that way about Towson, especially being a Dundalk guy. Towson was always like sort of the city on the hill when you're from Dundalk. You know what I mean? It still lights up over there, Heaver Plaza and whatnot. The county seat and Towson, you said the challenges there with the business space and in downtown and the mall, the area where the new movie theaters came, just East Towson, all the things that go in. Give me a little perspective on Towson, because Catonsville feels vibrant. White Marsh feels vibrant. There are places we go. I hear this about Towson, but when I'm in Towson, I live in Towson. I like Towson.
Yeah. So there's a lot there. It's a big conversation. But here, let's break it down to its most basic, which is that we haven't actually provided in Towson a real opportunity for example, it to become a thriving community of postgraduates who are all there, who've decided, not only did I go to Towson U or, Goucher, what have you, I love this area. I'm going to start my family here and live here. There aren't great opportunities.
Not a college place for 4 years, a place to stay after you graduate.
That's right, because you are invested in the community and it feels like your community, which I think is really, really important. But you also think like just the basics around, we didn't build a light rail stop in Towson. I understand there was real fear and there were certain elements of concern around the others and what that would mean for our city. But that's
a 1972 decision, right?
Yeah, but literally. Let's be clear. That is our city as a county. If we had one, we don't have any towns or municipalities.
Well, the most important part of Baltimore County is what I was going to say. I'm a Dundalk guy, and you're a Catonsville guy, but I'd say Towson's the big one.
Right. If Towson isn't thriving, we're doing it wrong. And so, you hear about opportunities to, not just address the connectivity to Towson University, but to say, we are going to make this the beating heart of our county in a way that it hasn't been before. And instead, we're losing really great restaurants like the Perennial, where there are opportunities for us to reorient. And
Lost Nacho Mamas too. Yeah, another one of my places, right? Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah.
And so, it is about trying to build a vision, which, Jim Smith did. They created a walkability plan for Towson. There's a certain sense of dusting that off. It was also bringing together, again, the community to do a reimagining of what downtown Towson should look like and the ways in which to increase connectivity, increase access, including public transit access, and also trying to pull in the Towson University community into those discussions in a way that is fully embracing the life and promise of what it means to have that incredible institution right in the heart of Towson.
Well, I'm a big fan. Nick Stewart's here. He's running for Baltimore County Executive. We're out here at Red Brick Station. I have the scratch-offs from the Maryland Lottery, the Back to the Future scratch-offs. I said earlier, the Back to the Future, when the Avenue was getting built, the light tower at the end, it was very much from, every time I drove down here in 1997, I'm like, it looks like it's out of the movies. So we have these scratch-offs giveaway. We're going to be at Fadley's on the 28th, which is in the city, and we're also going to be up in Carroll County at not Eldersburg, Hempstead, at Greenmount Station. Green Spring. I'm doing it all here. Catonsville in the West Side and your background in that. Give a little bit about your family and background.
Yeah.
You're running for public office. People need to know who you are, Nick.
I appreciate that.
I don't know that much about you. I know I've talked policy, zoning, wonky, progressive, change things with you.
I am a policy nerd at bottom, right? And that's okay. But it has to be a movement, a coalition that's ultimately built around these ideas. And they're not just mine. So to be frank with you, and I'll certainly provide some more details about me, but we have a platform that's over 30 pages long. It's single space. It's 11 font, right? Like, we've built this out. It's the product.
By the way, when I told my wife I was running for mayor, she's like, you got to have a platform. Mine was 41 pages, but nonetheless,
right.
It never was released, but it was written. There you go.
So, but we've had over 300 now, 30 conversations in the county. It's reflecting all of those conversations. Is that enough? Of course it's not, because plans and ideas don't really matter unless they're actionable and unless you're successful and you win this thing. And so there's a real sense that we've got to build this, make sure that it's larger than just a handful of people. And what we're seeing is that people are gravitating towards a message of sort of freshness in the solution set, and also a belief that things don't have to be this way just because they always have been this way. And so we sort of talk about what the next chapter of Baltimore County can and should look like. It should be a results-driven enterprise that is focused on making people's lives easier, whether that's going to be childcare access, whether that's going to be, a community schools model that stabilizes communities, whether it's creating more housing units so that people can afford to live here. Over 50% of the people who rent spend more than 30% of their income on their rent. So if we think about that, that's an enormous fraction of people who are spending way too much money on just trying to live. That is the single biggest reason why things feel so challenging, so tough and difficult for people. And so, I grew up in the central part of the county. I went to Delaney High School. I am the product, shout out to both my parents, both of whom were registered nurses. Yesterday was National Nurses Day. My mom unfortunately passed from cancer in 2016, but my dad still lives in the Hunt Valley area. And so, there's a certain sense, carrying forward that as I've been able to live, I lived in Arbutus for 6 years. We now live in Catonsville with our 4 kids, 9, 7, 6, and 4.
So you're a North County guy that moved west. I'm an East County guy that moved north.
No, there you
go. We're all just we're just playing games
That's
out
right.
here.
We're one county,
and we're sitting here in White Marsh. I lived here for 10 years, so there you go.
And I played
that
ball.
shows we're all in it together. It really does.
It does. I played Metro ball. I played for Putty Hill, and so that was out this way as well. And in any event, so. There's this opportunity for us to kind of leverage that story and that history and say, we've seen a lot of this county. What's great about it, what's so beautiful and wonderful. I've lived outside of the Erdl and inside of the Erdl, which is the urban-rural demarcation line where we've designated things to either be sort of more green or more dense and
You taught me about the Erdl last time.
I did. Okay,
you were the first one that Erdl has been brought up, other than Bob Ertel back played for the Skipjacks. The only time I've ever heard that term was when you were on. I think.
But so what's great is that my parents, they had us, they raised us in the northern part of the county, but my dad started a small healthcare business, and because of what he did, which was cardiovascular imaging, he ends up starting a business outside of D.C. near Chevy Chase, Maryland. And instead of moving us, we were young, we could have been moved. They said, we're going to stay here. Your dad's going to drive 3 hours each day to ensure you can stay rooted in Baltimore County. And that meant the world to me. It really means something because in this place, the folks you grow up with, they still matter in your life, as it turns out. This community we have built generation over generation is built because we know and love one another. And we are stronger together as we do life together. And so that has been proved out in my life time and again. I'm so thankful that they would keep me here. And in fact, my grandmother spent her entire career at Baltimore County Public Schools. There has been full.
I'm Baltimore County school educated too. We turned out all right, didn't we?
We did.
It was that. Yeah, I've had the Curly guys and the Calvert Hall guys. Oh, why did you go to? Well, I don't know. I did okay. I'm a fan of public education.
I'm also a fan of public education.
I'm against book burning. Literally, I am.
I believe that. Yeah.
I'm that kind of guy. I write books. I don't burn them. But
I know
from an education standpoint, we are all in this together, and everywhere I go, I run it. Whether I'm white, wherever I am, I run into people that it is really a community. It's not like other places.
That's right. And so, part of this campaign, a big part of the focus of this campaign, is trying to reconcile our county to one another, saying we are one county. The things that happen in White Marsh are going to matter to the people in Towson. Things that happen in Towson or Lutherville is going to matter to Owings Mills, and on and on and on throughout our county. If we are struggling on the east side in some of our post-World War II communities, that should matter to the rest of us. We should take heed of that and say, how do we create a coordinated plan in order to address it? And
that's what Trade Point became.
That
right?
is what Trade Point. And
sure.
This is the best example that we have of our county coming together in the wake of a devastating event of losing Bethlehem Steel and saying, that's it, wrap it up. This whole town was built around this industry. They're gone, we're gone. We said, no, we're going to bring all the stakeholders together. We are going to develop a comprehensive vision for what this strategic area should be and how it will facilitate and foster
and go kick Norfolk's
community.
Ass at being a port town, right? Literally, right? That's what it was.
It's a global logistics hub. It is unprecedented as far as how we transformed that opportunity into what it is today.
And Baltimore County has that.
We've done the hard things. We know we can do the hard things. It's just at this moment, we have a lot of hard things to do at once.
Nick Stewart's here. He's running for Baltimore County Executive. That's a hard thing. We're out here at Red Brick Station. Not a hard thing to get after this thing, man. Bill Blocker brought me on the crab cake tour. This is the shrimp salad and the crab cake fried, just the way I like it. Come on out here to Red Brick Station. Say hello to our friends. It's been a long time. We went over to Ando's. I rented at Silver Spring Station on the other side where Looney's, I guess, is now. My son went to Perry Hall High School at the turn of the century, and I moved over by the Boomy Temple, Springhouse Circle behind the Duck Farm by Essex Community College, King Avenue, and I lived 50 feet from the Boomy Temple. And that was at the turn of the century. And, I moved to the city. I lived in the city for 19 years, but I've been back in the county for 3.5 years now. And just talking about all these issues, the county-city thing, and having gone through COVID, having known all the electeds, I've had every elected, every wannabe elected on. If Al Redmer runs against you, I'll have him. I love you, Al. You know that. Whoever it is, but for me, the city and the county and that delineation, when you're driving down 83 or you're driving down Eastern Avenue, you go past Gina Schock's house, next thing you know, you're in the city. This notion that the city and the county, there's a line that stops, and the crime's there, and the murders are there, and this is there, and I ain't going down for baseball no more in the city. Yeah. That's the part that the old baseball and football fan in me says, it says Baltimore on it. We're all in this together. Yeah. We don't, we go downtown for concerts. We go downtown for crab cakes. We go downtown to do things, and we're all in it together. Yeah. The county-city thing and how all the counties had to really work together during COVID.
That's right.
Under a Republican governor with primarily Democratic leadership in the counties, other than Harford County. Some thoughts about the city and the county, because we can talk all about the county strength, but the city needs to be a strength, too, for all this to work together. And you're the fourth potential county executive in a row I've talked to about this.
End of day, our futures, whether we like it or not, they're tied together as a region, because we are competing at an ever-increasing scale with places like North Carolina and Virginia, which is currently eating our lunch. We're competing with places like Delaware and Pennsylvania to some extent, and even broader, right, because of the advent of remote work and the way in which this has sort of perpetuated certain or accelerated certain, trends.
I say that, but I get out on the highway and there's tons of cars. I own a radio station, rush hour traffic, baby. I got traffic the other day, I'm like, yay, traffic, But I mean, there is more movement now.
There is more movement now. That's right. But there's also more flexibility that the people have been seeking, and I think has been part of the dynamic here. And so if you think about our competitiveness as a region, we have got to plan and strategically orient ourselves as a region. We're not this. The idea that there's this invisible line that separates us and what happens in one jurisdiction doesn't matter to the other is wrong. And we know that's wrong, not just from that point of view, but also from the fact that we share the same water and sewerage system, one of which is 50 years old, the other of which is 75 years old on average. That's a problem. But also we share in the crime fight. And we also share in this economic development that the city and county are trying together to work on in order to fuel growth across the region. GBC talks about a branding effort, about branding Baltimore. Not necessarily just Baltimore City, not necessarily just Baltimore County, but Baltimore. And that is, look, we're tied to that. That's in our name. That's who we are. That's our history as well. And it will be our future to some extent. So we've got to have a good working relationship in order to excel. How
can people support you? What are you doing? You're raising money. Where can I spend my $50? Where's your next bull roast? What are you doing?
Yeah.
When are you going to start texting me for money? That's what they all do. So, yes. Don't do that. I won't vote for you.
Mm-hmm. Appreciate you. Oh, man, those texts, right?
Yeah. Here we go again.
Stop doesn't seem to mean stop. But in any event, so we have a website. Please check it out, nickforbaltimorecounty.com. We're on all the social medias as well. But the real opportunity here is we are looking for engagement. We're looking for folks' ideas. We have opportunities for you to engage with the campaign, the apparatuses. We had our kickoff last week. We're really helping to build that grassroots campaign team now as we're going into all these communities, planning district days. We're going to spend each of the councilman districts. Opportunities for the one-on-one conversations. We'll be posting up at certain coffee houses and libraries and so forth for those opportunities. Just really seeking that level of engagement to reflect the fact that the county and its citizens are interested in this. They want to believe, again, there he is, they want to believe again that what they do matters, that if they try again, it will pay off in the end result.
Nick Stewart's running for Baltimore County Executive. Hey, for anybody trying to make the place better, I have a microphone. I have a seat. We're all in it together. That's what Baltimore Positive's all about. Our friends at the Maryland Lottery have sent me here to White Marsh today, not just to eat these giant sandwiches and already eat my second crab cake of the day or go next door and get a delicious roast beef sandwich. The Maryland Lottery sends me with the Back to the Future scratch-offs. I'll be giving these away here today. We'll be at Faithley's on the 28th. We will be up in Carroll County on the 7th of June. And I'm going to be next week poolside in Las Vegas at the Encore Pool. You ever been to the Maryland party?
I have not.
It's a thing.
This year.
It's a thing. I'm going to tell you right now. I'm hoping for temperatures under 88 degrees so that I don't get, all whoo. But it's a dry heat out there in Vegas. So Luke is out covering all things baseball this weekend, and the Angels and the Orioles getting back in town next week against the Washington Nationals. I'm going to sign off from here. Our friends at Red Brick Station have been phenomenal to us. It's always great family vibe out here at the Avenue. Always kids running around. Always things to do over here at the Avenue. I've enjoyed my conversations today. Good luck to you, right?
They got some for us.
You got sandwiches to go? Hold on here. I got Ando's sandwiches to go. Hold on.
One is called a Figgy Piggy.
Figgy Piggy? All right.
The other's our roast beef that we roasted.
Figgy Piggy and roast beef. Hold on, Bill.
you.
Here, I'll put you in here. If you're going to plug your business, for crying out loud, plug your business the right way.
That's okay.
All right.
Katie made some sandwiches for you guys to take home. One is called the Figgy Piggy. It's the hand-cut prosciutto that we use with goat cheese, arugula.
It says FP on it. Figgy Piggy. I got it.
Piggy. The
And
other
this
one
says RBS. What is
that's-
that? Roast
that's-
beef sandwich.
That's actually, it means roast beast.
Roast beef sandwich. Okay.
Because it's rare and it's a beast.
I like
insane.
it.
It's
It's not
insane.
even Christmas time, Grinch.
Nah, take some sandwiches home. Make sure your wife knows to come see us at Ando's.
There you go.
Yep.
All right.
And I know you'll be up there. I'll
Come
see
see
you.
our friends over here at Red Brick Station. Bill Blocker and his family doing things the right way. Nick's running for Baltimore County Executive. Me, I'm just running to Las Vegas to go see Sammy Hagar. I'm back for more. We are WNST, AM 1570. Towson, Baltimore. We never stop talking Baltimore sports and eating crab cakes. Stay with us.